All right, what's up, YouTube? This is BoxingWave. Happy Easter for everyone that celebrate. Okay, it's a beautiful day out here in New York. But yo, I wanna address a few things before we move on. Okay, about the fight last night, my review of the fight, and Errol Spence, and moving on from there. Okay. First off, as far as my criticism of Terrence Crawford, okay, I seen a lot of people complaining in the comments about my criticism of him and everything like that. I was being a little hard on him. Listen, I do that with everybody. You know why? Because Terrence Crawford to me is the best fighter in the world to me. All right. Not only is he the best fighter of the world to me, but I think he's the best fighter I've seen since Mayweather. All right. I really think he's that good. Okay. I just believe that. Just from based on what I've seen from him and everybody else, I think he's that good. All right. Uh, so I hold very high standards of him. Okay. So even though he's fighting excellent, all right, he's doing an excellent performance. I'm comparing him to what I believe he's capable of and what I've seen from him in past fights. I've seen him show a lot more responsibility in the ring and fighters that I don't even think was on Khan's level. Okay. A lot of people criticized him for his Benavidez performance. But when I watched that fight, yeah, I mean, as far as names is concerned, Benavidez is not up there with Amir Khan. All right. But Benavidez, he showed a lot more respect for Benavidez in that fight. He showed a lot more respect for Felix Diaz in their fight. Okay, so these guys that don't have the resumes that Khan has, doesn't have the name that Khan had, but he had a lot more respect for those fighters when he fought them. Those were tougher fights for him. He had to be more careful in those fights. So even though I know he had a lack of respect for Khan, especially because he hurt him so early in the fight, I know he was trying to just get him out of there. I still feel he has to fight with some sort of responsibility. And I felt like those two rounds, I think the second round, maybe some of the third, before he started fighting as a lefty, I thought he was just being a little too reckless in trying to catch him with one shot. Set up the big shot by going to the body, by throwing some jabs. I'm just giving constructive criticism because I am a big fan of Terrence Crawford. He's one of my personal favorite fighters, and I think he is the best fighter in the world right now. Okay? So when I see a guy on his level make these small mistakes, let's just say Khan caught him with a quick shot while he was lunging in and dropped him. Terrence Crawford would have still won the fight, obviously, but everybody would have been talking about, oh, he's overrated. Khan, he got dropped by Amir Khan. We already know what people would say if he were to get dropped, especially for the people that believe that Spence is better than him. It's all about Spence and Crawford, Spence and Crawford. That's what everyone is battling with right now. So when I watch these fighters, even when they're looking dominant, I still want to point out some things that could have been done to make the performance even better. That's all it is. I don't know Bud, but if I knew Bud personally, I would tell him the same thing because that's just the way I am. That's just my personality. You know, I'm not a guy that's just gonna ride the wave and be like, hey, Bud. I mean, of course, I'm gonna give him his props and respect. But when we talk, I'm gonna be like, yo, you was a little wild in there at some points. A couple of those rounds, he was a little wild in there. And that's it. I haven't seen him fight that wild since Gamboa, when he was trying to get Gamboa out of there and he got caught with a shot by Gamboa that rocked him. If he had fell down, everybody would have been like, oh, look, you let Gamboa, a small guy, drop you like that. This is what I'm saying. So this is the reason why I was criticizing those couple of rounds in the fight. He still dominated the fight. If any round, like I said, if any round goes to Khan, it was the second round. I think that was Khan's most, I wouldn't even say impressive. It's just the way that Crawford's offense wasn't there like it was in some of the other rounds. All right. Now moving on from that, Amir Khan, what should he do? I think Amir Khan needs to get another win at welterweight, fight another solid opponent, pick up a win, and fight a big fight out there with Kell Brook. It's time, and that's it. You know, that's it. He just doesn't compete with the top guys at 147. All right, I said this before. I said this before the fight. A lot of the delusional Khan fans, not Amir Khan fans, but the delusional ones, were the first guys that were saying that Khan's hand speed is this and that, and it's going to be too much. And this, I said no, it's not going to be too much, because it wasn't too much for Danny Garcia. It wasn't too much for Canelo Alvarez and Prescott and all these other fighters that beat him or gave him a hard time. It wasn't too much for these other fighters. Okay, I know guys want to just come with the angle of weight. As weight is a factor. Weight is this. Weight is a factor. I'm not saying it's not. But the reason why he's undefeated at 147 is because he didn't fight Danny Garcia there, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, Tim Bradley, Errol Spence, Keith Thurman, Sean Porter. Before this, Terrence Crawford. There's so many welterweights that's been relevant at 147 for years that he did not face. He did not face plenty of them, okay? He fought Danny Garcia, but he didn't fight him at welterweight. So when he says he's undefeated at welterweight, the weight is this, the weight is that. The weight was a problem at 140. He goes up. Now he's fighting comfortable. He goes up to 154. Now it's the weight issue. Let's not talk about the weight. Weight is not going to be the excuse for this. I see flaws in Amir Khan's game. He has flaws. It's okay to just admit to say that he has flaws. He has flaws. It is what it is. Okay? Like, and then the other thing is, people keep saying, well, we've never seen him get outboxed. He never seen him get outboxed. Look at the fights that he got knocked out in very closely. All right? And look at some of the fights that he won very closely. Okay? You don't think Chris Algieri exposed some things in his game in that fight? All right? You don't think Canelo Alvarez wasn't working towards that knockout that he got rounds prior to that? Let's just not act like Canelo was just getting completely outboxed. No, Khan was definitely winning rounds early, but Canelo was working towards the knockout. That's the game plan. You're not going to always just come out the gate, just start outboxing the dude. You know, I mean, we see this all the time. Wilder, how many fights has he been losing in rounds and he knocks out his opponent? You know, he caught Spilka when he was arguably losing. He caught Gerald Washington when he was arguably losing. So the game plan was still in effect in some of these fights. Even Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia, he was losing, but he was still landing the right shots that at some point was going to lead to a knockout. So all you guys, the delusional fans, not the Amir Khan fans, because I'm an Amir Khan fan, but I'm just not a delusional one. You know, there's ones that think he's the greatest thing that's ever happened in the history of boxing. I'm not one of those guys that make an excuse for every single fight that he's lost. He's lost for this. He lost for that. No, he's lost because fighters capitalize off his flaws, his obvious flaws. He has flaws, and they're very blatant. You know, it's very clear to see. You can beat him. It's already been proven how to beat Amir Khan. So you got to give Bud his credit. I don't know how anyone that saw the Samuel Vasquez fight and thought that this guy was going to beat Bud. You know, you beat up Phil Greco. Okay, you stopped him earlier than Spence did or Danny Garcia did or whoever else, or Sean Porter did. Okay, but it's still Phil Greco. You beat Samuel Vasquez, but you got dropped by him. You know? I don't see, people that are calling him old now. Well, what did you see in the Samuel Vasquez fight that you thought was going to be enough to beat Terrence Crawford? This is the points I was making before the fight. I said this before the fight. You know? I'm like, it's been proven several times on how to beat Khan. So you think Terrence Crawford, a guy that's in a different, like he's in a different league of the fighters that Khan has, some of the fighters that Khan has lost to. I mean, Prescott. Are we forgetting that Breedis Prescott knocked him out in one round? And we saw Terrence Crawford is when I first really, when he beat Breedis Prescott, that's when I first really paid attention to him. Like, oh shit, this kid is really good. You know? Prescott is a common opponent. You know? So, and I know that's an older fight and everything, but yo, Khan has been knocked out several times since then. So we got to be logical here and just not say things that's just crazy. Like he has hand speeds, but okay, is that all you got? That's all you're talking about in these interviews, you know? Yo, that's how you know the summer is on its way because start getting loud out here. But yo, all right, so moving on. Kell Brook, real quick. Kell Brook was doing a lot of talking. You know, this is what I don't like about Kell Brook. And I hate when fighters just, I was just talking about weight and Amir Khan. The problem I have with these fighters is that you want to keep addressing the weight. Now, when you went and lost to Errol Spence, you were addressing the weight. You felt that you needed to go to 154. But now you're talking about fighting Khan. You're talking about fighting Bud. And, like, nah, man. Like, what are you doing? You know, because I don't want you to fight at 147 and then your excuse if you were to fight Bud or if you were to fight Khan and lose a fight, I don't want to hear nothing about weight, bro. Seriously. I said when he decided to go up to 154, that's a bad idea because he doesn't have that size advantage up at 154. And you fight a pressure fighter like a Jarrett Hurd that's bigger than you. What are you gonna do when you get tired because you have stamina issues? You always had conditioning issues. You've always had it. So what are you going to do? You know? So Kell Brook, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know what he wants to do. You know? I know he wants to fight Khan still. He's talking about fighting Bud and, you know, I mean, I'm not completely writing him off because he's still a good opponent. You know, especially if Bud can't get the fight with Spence. You know, Spence is not going to fight him next. Spence is going to fight Sean Porter. You know, it is what it is. I know the fans want Bud and Spence to fight. It's not going to happen. Not just yet. You know? But Kell Brook is still a good opponent. I just don't want to hear no noise about him being weight trained and shit. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. You went to 154, right? What are you doing messing around here? You know, this guy's up there. Are you up there or are you at 147? I think you should stay at 147. But if you're going to stay at 147, take your losses like a man and stay at 147. Stop playing the weight game, you know? Now, as far as Errol Spence, I think it's totally meaningless to compare performances between Khan versus Bud and Spence versus Mikey Garcia. First of all, Mikey Garcia does not belong at 147. He does not belong there. All right? Errol looked great against Mikey, okay? But Terrence Crawford would look great against Mikey. All right? I've said this. I don't know how long I've been saying that Terrence Crawford would beat Mikey Garcia. Because Mikey Garcia chose and publicly said he has no interest in fighting Terrence Crawford. He said that. Oh, because it's not going to be a good matchup. All right, whatever. You don't want to fight him. We know why you don't want to fight him. Terrence Crawford would destroy you, bro. And he'll move down. Even in at 135, at 140, Terrence Crawford would beat Mikey Garcia. And I love Mikey. He's great. But Terrence Crawford would beat him. And Errol Spence would beat Amir Khan. So it's pointless to compare. What's the point of comparing? Errol Spence would beat Amir Khan. Terrence Crawford would beat Mikey Garcia. Both fights they dominated in. You know, one dominated in a way where he stopped the guy. The other one just dominated on points. It really doesn't matter. Does it really even matter who looked better? You know? Does it really matter? I don't think it does. I think both fighters fought better better opponents. I thought Kell Brook was a tougher fight. Even Gamboa was a tougher fight than Amir Khan. If we keeping it real, it was a tougher fight for Bud. You know, Victor Postal was a tougher fight for Bud. You know, Benavidez was a tougher fight. Jeff Horn was a tougher fight. You know, I'm not saying all these guys are better than Khan. I'm just saying that these guys gave these guys tougher fights before their most recent fight. You know, it is what it is. So I don't think it makes any sense to really compare. Let's just get the fight. Let's just get the fight. We want the fight. I made videos on this already. We want the fights. That's all we want. Now, as far as the promoters, as far as Bob saying what he says and Al not really saying anything, he's just behind the scenes, so we don't know what Al thinks. But I'm going to be honest with you, and I say the same thing that at least I keep it consistent with this. You guys may not like my content or whatever, but at least admit I've been consistent with this. I don't like the promoters. I don't like any of the managers, promoters. I don't like any of them. They're all about their own money, their own pockets, their investment. I don't like the sanctioning bodies. I don't like any political part of boxing, period. Okay? I like the fighters, and that's it. All right? So, in my opinion, I don't trust Bob Arum. I've never heard Al Heyman say a damn word, and I don't trust him neither. I know he's about his fighters and the PBC. I know what Errol Spence has said in the face-off they had with Terrence. I know he said that Terrence Crawford's name didn't even come up as far as possible opponents. I know Al ain't trying to really make the fight, and I don't trust Bob Arum neither. I don't care what he says publicly and he wants to put on Al. Those dudes been around the game for too long. They know how to play chess and know how to play the political games. I don't trust Bob Arum. I don't think he's really trying to make the fight, you know? And I don't think Al is trying to make the fight either. So I think it drives me crazy when you guys defend these promoters. Like, y'all really going to defend them? There's fights on the PBC. If you're a PBC fan, there's fights on the PBC that could be made that we're not even getting. So how do you defend that? And then they charging pay-per-views, and it's supposed to be free. It's supposed to be on network television, and they charging us for pay-per-views. This is what you get for pay-per-views. Have you guys enjoyed these pay-per-views? Do you feel satisfied? Do you feel that you got your money's worth for these pay-per-views that I told you guys not to buy? How do you guys feel? According to the comments that I'm reading, you guys are pissed off that you paid for the pay-per-view. I would be too. You know? So I don't trust any of these promoters, these managers, these networks. I don't trust them all, you know? All I want to do is get the fights. I'm not going to play sides with Top Rank and PBC. That's stupid. I don't like Bob, and I don't like Al Heyman either. I don't like neither one of them. Because they're not giving me what I want. You know, I spend my money to watch the sport. And I want to get the fights that I want to get. Every other sport that I watch, I get the games that I want to see. So why can't I get the fights that I want to get? At least in the UFC, for the most part, I get the fights that I want to get there. Because these guys have to fight the best fighters all the time. There's no sanctioning bodies. There's no promoters. You're ranked number one. Well, you fight the next guy. None of these switching around shit that we're doing here in boxing. We don't get that here in the UFC. So I'm going to continue to complain about the fights that we should be getting that we're not getting. But realistically, Bud and Spence is not fighting next. They're not going to fight next. Spence is going to fight Sean Porter. You know, Sean seems like he's there to go. He's ready to go. You know, I made a video recently about that. So, you know, if you want to look at my recent videos, check that out. I did make a video about Spence fighting Porter next. And I made a video. I told you guys in the welterweight video that after seeing that Keith Thurman fight against Josecito Lopez, I said most likely Keith Thurman is going to be the one to fight Manny Pacquiao. Because for Manny Pacquiao, Keith Thurman looks like the more beatable fighter right now. And it looks like that fight might really happen. So Bud just needs to search for another opponent that has a decent, resume or name, and keep it going from there. All right, so that's it. That's all I have to really say about the Spence, Bud, Amir Khan stuff. I think it's all done. I want to get to other boxing topics and move on from there. All right. So drop your comments. Make sure you hit subscribe, and peace.